We are on vacation mode. Kate's all of a sudden turned into a DJ over there.
I'm in the mood to party. My headphones, is that what DJs do? They put their headphones up to their ear?
They do.
Without putting them on?
Yeah. They
Why
try
do
to
that?
They try to look all cool. I don't know what they do.
So it just naturally came to me to look cool, to try to be cool without knowing that was cool?
Yep, that was it.
I have to say, that's pretty talented.
I know. DJ Scribble.
Who's DJ Scribble?
I don't know who DJ. He's like a MTV kind of guy. I think.
Always mention him.
Yeah, DJ Scribble. Well, we're on vacation mode, everybody. So by the time you're listening to this, we're going to be long gone. Actually, we're going to
We'll be back.
Yeah, we're going to have come and gone. We're going to be going to Palm Springs, California.
What?
I know.
So excited.
I know. Are you pumped?
Well, yeah, it's been. I was talking about it in the kitchen earlier. It's been a year for you. Exactly. Well, a year in next month in October since you've been out of town.
Right.
Can you believe that? A year.
Yeah, it's been a year, and
I've been away a few times with a girlfriend to my spiritual retreats, but no, we've never. You and I haven't gone anywhere in a year.
I know,
so I'm really
bizarre.
looking forward to this. We decided this year to make it easy too. We're not taking. We usually pack up our juicer, all our appliances. I think the only thing we're going to take is the Vitamix because we found out there's a Whole Foods. How many? Like 12 miles away.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that.
Oh, because.
That's going to feel
That's
so
really
good.
a real getaway, not having to take all your appliances. And I don't mind doing that, but we also take so many supplements and all these other things. And, we travel with the pillows we like, and we travel, we're very picky packers. So
remember the last time we went, we packed, I think we went to Tahoe. We packed our dehydrator, we packed our juicer, we packed our blender, we packed, what else did we pack?
I think the family thought we were crazy.
Oh, they thought we were nuts. They thought we were completely nuts.
Yeah. I think we even packed our Larry and Luna's ice cream that we like in a cooler with all this ice, hoping to make it all the way on the 10-hour drive up to Tahoe. But when we got there, we realized there's a health food store right in Truckee or wherever that is.
Yeah.
That actually carries the same ice cream. So,
yeah.
It is what it is.
But you know what? I figure, it's the people that take extra... I think it's the people that take extra...
They go the extra mile.
Incentive and put a little bit of intention in how they live because... we're talking about, what were we talking about the other day where, when people get older, it's like being put out into a play without having ever practiced your lines.
That was an interesting analogy you mentioned.
All of a sudden you wake up and you're 75 years old and you don't realize that you have all these health conditions or these things creep up on you, but you haven't practiced your lines your whole life. You haven't taken care of yourself and that kind of thing. And I think that...
Yeah, so how are you just going to go out on the stage and perform and give an amazing show if you have no idea what the heck it is that you're saying or doing? Yeah.
And I think the same thing happens because I think a lot of times we let life dictate the terms on which we will live our life. You know what I mean? It's weird. If we have, if I have enough time, I'll go to the gym, or if I have enough time, I'll take care of myself, or I'll make these tinctures, or if I have enough time, if the baby's sleeping, or if my husband isn't taking up all my time, or vice versa, then I'll start taking care of myself. But I think that it's really cool to put some intention into what you're doing. So, as funny as it sounds, we pack all that stuff. It's
yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I remember last year when we went in October, we took all those packets of that stuff we love. Is it from Daniel Vitalis' company? Those medicinal mushroom packets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we took everything, or even last summer or whenever it was, we went with our family. We packed. You're right. There was an intention about supplies and also appliances that most people don't. It makes packing really, really hard for us. It takes seems like 5 hours to even load up a car for a 2-day trip, but it's always worth it. It's always worth it to me. But this time it's knowing there's a Whole Foods right there where we can get a juice every day, and they have most of the things we eat. It just feels really freeing. But I agree, going the extra mile. We've had a lot of sick people in our lives lately, and it's wow, well, at some point, you're right. If you're not practicing the play all the way along, you're not going to be able to perform when something happens.
Right.
And it's going to happen because you didn't, you said, rehearse your lines or take care of yourself leading up to it. So yeah, don't you think there's always intention behind anything worthwhile?
Yeah, you have to do a little bit of planning. You have to take care of yourself. You have to do a little bit of preparation, and all this stuff is sort of it's sort of it's investing in yourself, but it's also a message to, I don't know, God, your life, whatever you want to call it. It's saying, I'm worth it. I'm worth planning a little bit for. I'm worth putting a little intention and taking care of myself. And I think that a lot of people just don't do that. Yeah. And they let, like, if you let life dictate how you're gonna live and the terms by which you're going to be healthy, like, there's always, like I always say, there's always, I never have time to do my workout at the gym. I don't have time. I don't have time to do, spend an hour in the morning in the kitchen making food and stuff like that. But it's like, if you don't take care of yourself, I mean, what else do you have? I mean, what's the point? You're going to be sick and you're going to be a burden to everybody else.
Right. I know. I think about that with the rebounder and the sauna. Like, I have to get up early now and make the time because I'm doing this full time along with a couple other part-time jobs, even to help friends out and stuff. And it's like, it's just, what do I value at the end of, it's crazy at the end of a week or a month, how many things you do if you make time for it. Because you're right, we don't all have time, but I've done 7 or 8 saunas and 7 or 8 rebound sessions. Right. Or, what I was thinking of when you said that is, our friend Jason and Michelle, when we went out with them a long time ago to dinner, and we were talking about supplements and things, and he mentioned taking out, opening all the capsules that were like the gel caps that you could open, and putting the supplements more like in a water and doing a shot of them, so he didn't have to digest that extra like vegetable capsule or whatever. And you've been doing that for what? Has it been not even 2 months?
It's been, I don't know the exact date, but it was around like the middle of August. I'll just say August 15th.
You should post a picture of how many capsules that you've emptied out into a water situation and drank that, and the bag of capsules you have that haven't gone through your body. Yeah,
it's like a half a Ziploc bag so far.
I know, it's crazy. But I thought about that when we were talking about this kind of stuff. It's like, we don't, you might not have time, but when is there ever going to be time? Or, you take this extra time to like empty your capsules and now look at what hasn't gone through you that you feel is important if you can, and not extra texture digestion in order to get these really amazing supplements in your body. But like, if you didn't take the time to do that, you wouldn't have a Ziploc bag full of gel caps that those would have all gone through you. And it's like,
I know, right?
It just kind of puts it in perspective to me.
Yeah, I think so too. And what puts it in perspective a lot for me is looking at things in terms of like huge chunks of time. I mean, huge chunks of time in terms of our own limited human lifespans, But, doing something for 30 years, if you do something every day for 30 years, it's a trip.
Yeah.
Like, what if I were to, this has been like a month and what is it now? So a little over a month and a half probably that I've been doing that. And so think about a full year's worth of that, and then think about whatever that is, 30 of those years.
My gosh.
Like that would be like a trash bag full of supplement, what are those called? Capsules, those veggie caps.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Wow. It's call me weird, but I think about that kind of stuff a lot. I always think like, if you could, like this studio we're in here, it's, it's not very big. How many square feet you think? Like a couple hundred?
No, 150.
Okay, so it's kind of small. But I think, how many, think about all the food we've eaten our whole life. It would overflow this room stacked, don't you think?
Oh gosh.
Like a couple times over?
Yeah.
Or you think about anything, all the cocktails people drink.
Right.
Would it fill this whole room? Or how many, I like to think about that stuff, it puts it in perspective of actually what goes through you. If you stacked all the hamburgers you've ever eaten or steaks in your life or, or even good food, but wow, that's insane what actually goes on in your body.
I know.
We have to process all this stuff throughout our lifetime. You probably fill up, half of a house, depending on how big your house is. But,
yeah.
We've eaten that amount of space in food. That goes through our bodies. It's just bizarre.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
It's so weird.
And think about, if you were to figure, someone living till they're, 80 years old and they're eating sort of these junk kind of food, typical standard American diet. Excuse me. And
Twinkies.
Yeah, Twinkies.
I don't know if that's standard, but
I wonder how much toxins, because how they say that, there's, hundreds or thousands of chemicals of toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis, and I wonder if you were able to extract all of the actual toxins from all of the food that you've ever eaten, what would that look like?
Oh, gosh.
How
much room would that take up?
Yeah.
Or like, poundage, or like if you weighed these toxins.
Yeah. What would that look
Wow.
like, do you think? And you wonder why, we're sick and why, we can't handle our food and we have all these problems. I mean, that could be, I don't know, it could be 10 pounds of actual literal toxins that your body has to process over the course of, 70 years.
It blows my mind when you think about that and you have a situation like that your body could not handle that at one given time. Like, you would just die.
Yeah.
So, and that's true of supplements or anything else. Like, if you had too much of one thing, it could be a really bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so why is it okay spread out over a lifetime? Like, it's obviously gonna affect you to some extent, and the lucky ones are the ones that don't get affected, but it's not very common.
It's funny that people will think, it seems like they're just, the general attitude, I just can't figure it out, because people will, like, you look at people sort of eating and taking care, and how they take care of themselves and whether or not they do, and it's just really interesting, because I think everyone thinks that whatever health conditions that exist in the world or whatever, like, somehow it's just not going to happen to them.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, okay, well, it happens to everybody else. But
did you ever think like that?
No. What was weird? I was always, I think after my mom got diagnosed with cancer, I was always just scared to death of getting it.
Yeah. I know when I first met you, you seemed to be pretty aware and on the path to not be getting sick, which I understand with cancer, but even since I've known you, you've always been like, I don't want to become diabetic, or I don't want to. You seem like a really. Do you think that's what happened with your mom? Like, you became so aware and like hyper aware of disease?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I realize what I don't want. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people learn the negative side. Like, remember, we're listening to Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn's awesome, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he was talking about, showing the value of $1 to a child. And he was saying, like, if a child has a business selling soap, and he sells a bar of soap for $3, and then he puts the other $2 of soap, or $2 of profit that he made from the soap into buying more soap for his business, and then he's got $1 left over, and then the child wants to go spend the $1, but then Jim Rohn is saying, convince the child with everything within you to not spend the whole $1, and he was saying, take them to the other side of town, show them the poor people, and show this is what happens when you spend the whole $1. This is the type of life that you have.
Wow.
You spend the whole $1, and in his classic Jim Rohn voice and fluctuations, he's so good. I love that guy.
That guy is such a character. Oh, he was such a character.
Yeah, and I think part of my desire to be healthy was also to not get sick. But that's really. For me, it's really, a balancing act, because you don't want to become like a hypochondriac, or you don't want to become someone who's like constantly focused, especially when you realize the stuff that we realize on the spiritual, mental, emotional levels, where you want to be fixated on not getting sick.
Right.
That's not good.
Because when you're fixated on not getting sick, you're actually giving being sick a lot of power.
Yeah.
Because you're always thinking about what you don't want, and that actually, it means you're focused on the sickness. Mm-hmm. So it's like you're not doing yourself a favor.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are just, their whole life is focused on, that's why I think it would be so hard to be a doctor, like a naturopathic doctor, or maybe like a cancer sort of related doctor. Wouldn't that be hard?
Oh, it'd be so rough. You're around it all the time.
Yeah. Because you're all constantly always thinking about that. Mm-hmm. That'd be hard.
You're always thinking about it, and you're always, unfortunately, I mean, everybody, like we had Dr. Stephen Hines on the show last week, and, he's, I love him because he's so honest, but he's like, yeah, we lose people, I mean, not everyone has a good outcome, because a lot of times by the time people come to him with really advanced stages of cancer and other diseases, it is kind of, quote, too late. But the beautiful part about him was saying they can make that quality of life that they have left really comfortable and really great until the end. So it's a great way to go into the dying process, But where was I going with this story? Just lost my train of thought. Oh, but just the fact that, like, not everybody ends well. I mean, you can't.
But then too, what's well, like. if we have this attachment to, it's hard as it is for me to say this, if we have an attachment to this life, but if we're spiritual beings destined for heaven or destined for whatever, like what, you know what I mean? It's like we have this weird attachment to this life.
That's so weird you said that, because I was putting in a load of laundry this morning before our trip, and I was walking downstairs, and I put the laundry in the laundry room in the garage, and then I went out to our car, and I was kind of getting ready to be able to load up our stuff for the trip, and I'm in the trunk, and there's the backpack that my dad gave us for like survival in case you're, stranded on the side of a road because of a natural disaster or whatever. And I took a look at the backpack. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. I have, because, it has like, not bottled, but what do you call that? Like water in little paper containers and.
Yeah.
Excuse me. No it has all that stuff along with, like freeze-dried food and stuff to get you through a few days. And I was like, this is cool. But again, I thought, if the Earth's going to get hit by a giant meteor, or we're going to have an earthquake with a tsunami that's so insane, like, it really hits you at certain times. Like, I don't want to just survive. I don't want to survive. I don't want to be trying to fight to stay alive in a condition where it's just not good. Yeah. And I'm glad for those moments, because they always remind me of, like, don't hold on too tight to this life. Like, we try so hard. Because, you watch all those movies where it's just insane what people go through to try to stay alive, and you're like, there's no humanly way possible you could dodge 250 bullets by everyone trying to get you, and you're like, it just seems like, and then the world ends and you're still alive, and you're just fighting to like be alive, and I'm like, well, at some point
I know, right?
What's the point?
Yeah,
I want to live too, and I want to live a good quality life, and if there was an earthquake and a tsunami started coming, I would run, I would try, but at some point, like, your backpack ration of 3 days of food is going to run out, or the tidal wave is going to be so big. Like, what's the point? Like, I know.
It's like, a 20-foot tidal wave. Oh, if it's 30, then I'm dead. But 20, I could survive. And I could just float on the water for for X amount of time. It
kind of becomes silly, but
yeah,
I'm kind of glad for those reminders, because there was a weird. I don't know if I talked about this on a free for all, but. A couple weeks ago, your dad, of all people, brought up this whole thing. I think he heard at church.
Oh, yeah.
About the end of the world coming, and the rapture was supposedly going to happen due to calculations on biblical, biblical principles. That was supposed to happen last week. This week, actually. The 23rd was supposed to be the rapture, and then the 24th was like a meteor is coming toward the earth. It's going to hit us. We're all going to go down. Jade Helm's involved. All the politicians have their bunkers they're going to climb into, and they're going to be safe, and then come out and start the world all over after the acid rain burns everybody up.
I love that. It's not just rain. It's got to be acid rain. Is there? I didn't know people in church knew about Jade Helm. Is that a thing?
Well, that's so weird to me too, because I came across some when you mentioned the rapture thing that your dad. I had no idea, because we don't, we pay attention to things, but not to everything.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that one, so I YouTube these like end of the world worst case scenario videos, and it scares the bejeebers out of you if you let it.
Yeah,
sweet sassy molasses.
Yeah,
but I started watching this thing, going, this is absolutely ridiculous, and a lot of people were tying in the Jade Helm. I still don't understand why, but they're saying there's a reason that Jade Helm, they're up there. They know that this giant, meteor is coming toward us. God knows if they're trying to work on the behalf of the planet, or it's part of the destruction of all mankind. But it was such a fatalist thing, and I had to actually turn it off, because. So
my question is then, what did you? What did you search in YouTube for that, to find that video?
Rapture, September 23rd, 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was
all kinds of stuff.
Are we all going to die soon? Question mark.
Will I be taken out of my shoes today? Question mark.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure you could find it that way too. But I just thought, it reminded me again, like, well, I don't think this is going to happen, and this seems like a little crazy, especially if you've actually read the Bible and if you trust that the Bible is true, and it says no one knows the hour or the day of the return, or even the end of the world, like, then why do all these people just think that they have it all figured out? Is beyond me. But it was interesting. It was interesting to go into, and actually that movie, one of the YouTube movies I watched where they show these clips of Final Impact and, like Armageddon, you're like, you start to kind of freak out inside, and you're like, well, okay, maybe on the 23rd I shouldn't be at the beach level. Maybe I should be up on that hill. Maybe I should go to the mountains. Maybe I should. And then you're like, okay, stop. Like, slap yourself sideways, get back into your head, and be like, even if this did happen, say they're right. Say, like, God forbid they're right.
Right.
Everything goes to hell in a handbasket. We all get wiped out by this giant tornado and acid rain and avalanche and like all these horrible things that this meteor is going to cause.
Right.
I was like, then okay, that's cool. Like, what a way to go out. I obviously was here for this moment in time. It's no surprise to God that my life was going to end this way. So I'll have what I need to either get through it or die in it. And I just thought, gosh, like, the only thing that was causing me stress watching that YouTube video I watched was that I was trying so hard to fight to keep my life. I'm like, how can I survive? You know, and I thought, gosh, this is crazy. Why am I trying? Why am I so attached? Because it's all we think we know.
Because, I think that when we die, I mean, none of us knows what happens exactly when we die. It's such I'm going to move my mic like this.
Yeah, of course.
You might want to move yours a little bit too.
But more toward me?
Just down.
Yeah.
But I think that we have such a weird attachment to everything. I mean, when we die, it's probably going to be the most amazing thing that we've ever experienced, and we're going to probably be thinking, like, why did we try so hard
to hold on
to this weird life that was such a struggle anyway? You know what I mean?
You hear that with people with near death or actually have been pronounced dead and come back. They don't usually want to come back because it's so glorious. You know?
I know.
Yeah. I don't know. I've said this, I think, before, and I've talked about it with my friend Robin, but I always think that who knows? But when I think I'm going to die, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like this super comfortable place where I've been before, where I know, like, oh, this is so comfortable, and it just kind of hits you that you've already been introduced to this place, and it's familiar, whether it's like being back in the womb before you were born, or whether it was like being back in heaven or the heavens before you came to earth, or wherever our soul was stored or has been.
Right.
I feel like it's going to be like a return home to that place. So no, I don't want to die anytime soon, but it's almost okay because we're all gonna. It's just a natural part. I don't think like other cultures have as much of a hard time with death. No. It's just such a natural part. I'm not talking like other countries like us, but more like in the thickets and the tribes out in God knows where, in these places where it's just not domesticated. Like, I don't know, death doesn't seem to be to them such a dramatic, horrible, grievous thing.
Well, yeah, I think our culture, especially the Western world, we're so far removed from any biological human process in our life. Like we're not, we're sterilized, from birth to death.
Yeah.
From giving birth to the process of giving birth, going to the bathroom, sexual relations, cuts and scrapes, blood, anything that has to do with life. And so when you have other cultures will actually take the bodies of their loved ones and they'll embalm them and they'll put essential oils on them like they did in the Bible. Right. And they'll have this beautiful ceremonies out, on their property, and they'll bury the dead person on their property, and they'll go through this whole 3-day sort of celebration of their life. And, they're very much connected to the art of living and dying.
Right.
And,
because that is an art, isn't it? Like learning how to live well and die well.
Yeah. Like, he says that in Braveheart, doesn't he? Like at the very end.
Oh, does
before he dies, like, I've died well or something like that. But,
wow.
I think there's a book called that too. The art of dying well or something.
Yeah. Isn't it like a...
But yeah, we're just so removed from anything that has to do with living and dying. It's just weird. It's so weird. And so when someone does pass away, we haven't talked about it as a family. We don't go to funerals, or we don't. I don't know. We're just so disconnected as a culture to our own life, and it's like we're numbed. It's just really strange.
I remember talking about that. Last Tuesday was my birthday, and I went all day. For people listening, I went up to the local mountains with my best friend Robin, and we were driving up there, and it was really interesting. Her dad passed away maybe 6 months ago or something like that, And her parents were married for a long time, like 60 plus years. And
they
had a really good thing going, you know?
Wow, 60 plus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow.
They got married young. Everybody in their family kind of got married young and had kids young. And there's a lot of generations, because even Robin's a grandma, and she's, you know, you wouldn't think that she has an 11-year-old granddaughter. Wow. I think she just turned 58.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, she got married and had her daughter, who's my age, at 21. And then, you know, that girl, my friend also had her kids at like 21 or 2. And it's like, it just keeps going on. But it's really neat. But we were talking about death. And because it was so, when she called to tell me 6 months ago or whatever that her dad had passed away, she was like, oh, it was so beautiful. It was so peaceful. Like, he had been struggling with Parkinson's for years, like a really slow decline over like a 15-year period. So he was just getting to the point where it was time, and, you know, he wasn't even conscious at the time he passed, or he was conscious, but just not quite there, you know, in hospice and stuff. But she starts telling me about it, and she got super, super welled up with emotion. And she goes, yeah, you know, every time she goes down to spend time with her mom, because she's alone now, and her mom's actually doing really, really well. But every time she's been to her mom's since her dad passed, her mom wants to talk about the very end of right before he died. And Robin's like, well, I've always been really okay. I want to talk about him. But for some reason, she's like, I couldn't talk about that. I couldn't talk about the very end. So it became this kind of a, like, she wasn't looking forward to it. She was really dreading it. Because something about even though she seemed so fine when she originally told me that he had passed and it was beautiful, she didn't want to go back and revisit that. And that was so comfortable for her mom to talk about his actual passing, that her mom felt comfort and then Robin, you know, felt complete dread. So it was funny, like, with that moment, you think that her mom would not want to really revisit that, but it's actually a really healthy thing to go back there. So it's actually like drawn Robin out of that place of seclusion and trying to protect herself and put this shell around her to having to re-talk about it and relive it. And she goes, I mean, we had like this hour-long conversation on the drive about death and why we're so afraid. And she goes, yeah, why have I been so afraid to go to that space? And she said, because I think that I just don't want to cry. I don't want to be sad. And then she starts crying. I know I'm getting like teary telling it, but she said that when her dad was passing, like, her mom was holding his hand and she kissed him. And right as he's taking his last breath, she said, goodbye, my darling, like that.
Oh, wow.
And he slipped away. And she's like, why are we afraid of, like, why is that bad to cry? Like, you know, yeah, sorry. It was really powerful.
That's crazy. Yeah. So she, how long ago was it? Like a year ago or so?
It was like 6 months.
6 months ago?
Yeah. I know it makes me like all choked up, but.
Wow.
Yeah, she's like, why? It's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. But it was just really, you know, for her to go back there is really real and really like releasing. And, but she said, yeah, like, why? You know, there's healing in that, but yet we fight the healing. It was almost like she's like weird. Trying to protect herself. But it's kind of like I told her about Lissa Rankin's recent book, The Fear Cure.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's basically, that title is so cool of that book. It's like, basically, you think she's going to give you a cure for the fear.
A cure for fear, yeah.
Right. And she's in reality saying the cure is the fear. So, like, charge right into the middle of it. Just, like, if you go straight into your fears, that's where it's going to be the most healing.
So the cure, so not the fear cure, but the cure is... Wait, the cure
is the fear.
The cure is the fear.
Like, it's actually a blessing to us. Like, it's not that she's like, I'll give you a way around the fear. Okay. She's like, no, what's going to heal you is going straight into the middle of that, of your worst nightmare, of your worst fear. And the book I highly recommend it to people. It's the most well-written book on fear I've ever read. And I've been somebody who's struggled with fear, you know, my whole life. But, so Robin and I were talking about that, though. We're like, isn't it the same with death and anything that makes us sad, or the things that have been done to us, or these horribly traumatic or grievous experiences? Like, isn't there so much healing in it if we can just be honest and try to crack that shell that we've put up to try to protect ourselves? Like, and now that she's been able to go back into that with her mom a ton of times, even though she cried a little telling me and stuff, and we were kind of crying together, I thought, wow, like, there's so much peace. She has more peace now. Right. She's honest with herself. She's like, this is really going to hurt, and this is going to make me really sad, like beyond like that, like you're sick in your heart kind of sad.
Right.
But since she's been going there more and more, she's like, it actually frees me up. That is the freedom. The freedom is going so deep into that place that you're sick and then you can come back out of it. It's like, just be in that place where you're just 100% broken and sad, you know?
Does that, I guess, is there, it seems like it would be good for humankind and for all of us in our lives to instigate circumstances where we would be fearful and having to overcome that. Not just fear of death and fear, like maybe psychological fears that we might have, public
like
speaking, phobias and things, but also I guess it would be beneficial for us to artificially set up circumstances in our life where we have to overcome fear.
Don't you think?
I mean, when I first started this show, episode 1 with Ty Bollinger, do you remember that?
I actually was like, good luck, I gotta go to work, and I went to the hair salon. But I do remember you being really, you were, I'd say, did you say fearful? You were nervous.
I was super nervous. Oh my gosh, yeah. Because I don't have a background in radio or public speaking. As a child, I used to stutter. I just have to go to speech therapy classes and have to take speech therapy, and I was just beyond nervous and beyond scared because there was all this, and plus on top of that, I felt like I knew the subject matter well, but there was all this technical information that I don't know if we'd started doing live. We didn't do live shows right away, did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
It was like a year into it, I think.
It was, wasn't it? Uh-huh. And so, I was just super afraid of the technology and all this soundboard and all this stuff. But, it's one of those things where, man, I'm glad I stuck with it because, overcoming fear, I think that overcoming fear is one of the most beneficial things. Does she talk about that in the book? Like,
yeah, you charged through it.
Yeah.
The whole book is her talking about like how to keep challenging yourself and setting yourself up. Yeah.
To overcome.
Not to a ridiculous amount, to where
you're skydiving every other day.
Right. Yeah. With spiders and bombs attached to you because people are scared of that kind of stuff.
Lasers attached to your head.
Laser beams attached to your head. No, but that's interesting because I was a very fearful person.
Yeah.
And the more I just keep pushing myself, like last year in Tahoe, I don't like those gondola things that go up the mountain.
Remember that? You were freaked out.
I've never wanted to do one of those in my life. That feels really out of control to me. You're on a little tiny, why someone thought a good idea was to put a ginormous thing, basically a room hanging in the air on a small line going up and down a mountain is beyond me.
Hanging, 1,000 foot above the cliff.
Oh my gosh, like who? Oh, I don't even want to think about the people that have to put those up. But yeah, you and I took a 6 or 7 hour hike up this giant hill in Squaw Valley.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, we could make it down if we haul back down, but it is probably going to be dark. We probably I should buck up and take this gondola thing. And I remember thinking, this is way before Alyssa Rankin's book came out.
Oh, was it?
Oh, yeah. And
but we would have been it's either take the gondola down or we've been eaten by bears.
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
Roulette, right?
Yeah.
No, totally. Yeah. And I remember thinking, okay, the old me, though, would have pushed and been like, I don't care if it's dark. I don't care if there's bears. I'm too afraid of this gondola going down the hill. Like,
really?
Oh, yeah.
You would not have done that?
No. I would have rather been scared of bears.
And in the middle of the forest?
In the middle of the forest, hoping I made it back if you kind of pick up the pace. I remember thinking, I was at a crossroads going, okay, if we leave now, we might be able to make it in time by dark. But I thought, you know what, even if not, like, I'm really going to let this, 5, 6, 7 hour hike back down or 4, whatever. It's always easier going back. But I'm like, I'm going to take that long when I could be down in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And just, hunker down. I went. But I went scared. Like, I was on the bottom of that thing. I didn't want to look out.
Yeah.
I kind of looked up and I saw the trees, but I did not want to look down. I didn't want to look out. But it doesn't matter because I did it. Like, I don't care. I didn't have to enjoy it. But I made myself do it, Yeah.
So this was before you read the Fear Cure book?
Yeah, I'm sure she was writing it actually at the time, or maybe it had been written, but it wasn't published.
Wow.
But I thought if we stop pushing ourselves to take the gondola, we're going to keep hiking and wasting the lessons. Like, we're going to waste and I got off that thing and I've never been happier. Yeah. I didn't want to be on that. I didn't enjoy it. I don't want to do it again, but I will, but we're wasting the lesson. Like, the lesson was like, okay, I didn't die. It didn't snap. All these other people were loving it. Like, wow, my biggest fear is someone else's great adventure. Mm-hmm. People loved it on that thing.
Yeah, kids were on there, jumping around.
People had binoculars. Yeah, they were. And I'm like, oh, don't jump. But that's okay. Like, I thought, wow, but the things that we're afraid of, like, I think of Daniel Vitalis. Like, I think about him. He's a great public speaker.
Right.
I think when I think of a good public speaker, I mean, he's right up there with him.
He's
you put
really
that guy in a room, he's captivating, and he's not, he might have been afraid at the beginning, but he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would ever be afraid to speak and hold a room,
Right.
But I thought, wow, like, the neighbor across the street, they'd rather die than public speak,
Yeah.
But Daniel Vitalis, that's his biggest, like, he gets a kick out of it. So it's almost like if we can even trick ourselves in our head to be like, well, that somebody else doesn't mind that so much. Let's try to get into their mind frame and act like, even if I'm scared, go scared. Like, go stupid. Just go, just show up and just show up. I don't know. Like, just overcome your fear one step at a time. But
I got to go to the bathroom real quick. I got to go to the little boys' room.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Well, right there is the beauty of pre-recorded shows.
The pause button.
Pause button.
Most beautiful button in the world.
No, but I think what you're saying about fear is so key and so critical that I think that we're so soft in our culture. We're so, I don't know what it is about our culture, but we want to do everything that we can in order to make life as easy as possible, And we want to make everything in our life so that there's no struggle, there's no triumph, there's no mountain to conquer, and it's just weird how we want to do that, and we want to make life as easy as possible. And I think that people get into real problems that way because they'll start eating that way and they'll start living that way, and you become weak and soft, and you lose your character. And I don't know what it is. People that struggle for things, I mean, they're just you talk to them and they. When I was in New Zealand, I was hanging out with this guy, this farmer. I hung out with this guy who was I met him in Tonga, and he was a veterinarian. And in New Zealand, I'm thinking veterinarian like, oh, he helps dogs,
Right.
But in New Zealand, it's like, you're a vet for like the whole town, and it's every conceivable animal that you can ever think of. So he was vet with cows, and anytime there was an animal in the area, he had to take care of it, horses and stuff. But he had a friend who was a farmer, and I could just tell like his character was different because his life was challenging. It was hard, and you meet people like that, and they're like a higher level person. You know what I mean? They don't have things handed to them, and they overcome fears and struggles, and they have this sort of character about them that's just different than anybody else.
Wow.
And so many people. I mean, look at how comfortable our lives are. Like Daniel Vitalis will talk about rewilding your home and bringing plants in your home and bringing fresh air into your home and trying to mimic an environment that's more wild and outdoors in your home. And for the most part, we don't do that. Everything's artificial. Everything's fake. Everything is
from our light to our food. I mean,
yeah, it's bizarre.
It's like living in a terrarium.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I think that, like what you said, I think constantly trying to figure things in your life where you could overcome your fears is probably one of the best things you could do. I mean, look at you. I look at the growth you've had, and you're just such a different person. Yeah,
I am. Thanks. I know I am.
It's amazing to see how different you are. I remember when we were first dating. I think I shared this on the show.
It's a dating story.
It's a dating story. But we were eating. We're somewhere down in the harbor, Dana Point Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember the fish market.
Was it the fish market?
Mm-hmm.
And you said something like, "Oh, I don't know if I'd want to go to this country or that country because I don't know if they have any hospitals."
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, "Whoa." Well, that's
why would she say that?
Yeah, what?
What? I'm on a wrong date. I'm on the first and last date.
I'm with the wrong person here. No, but it was just I'd never heard. Just that mindset wasn't.
Yeah, my reasoning in my mind was I don't want to travel anywhere where I'm not like really close to a hospital in case something happens to me.
And for those who don't know, you have, or your body has a
threatening peanut allergy.
Yeah.
So right.
So that makes sense, but.
Yeah, I'm always afraid of traveling, and I've been afraid of traveling in foreign countries because you don't know what's in the food. You don't know if you're accidentally going to eat something that they couldn't explain to you, because you don't speak the same language.
Right.
So I always thought I needed to be near this hospital. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But overcoming fear, I think, is like you've grown so much in that amount of time. I've never seen a transformation so.
No, thanks.
So like it would be the equivalent of somebody losing, like on a physical level, it would be like someone losing 600 pounds from where you were mentally to where you are now.
Yeah, that's the kind of lightness my spirit has that's how light I've become because of what I've overcome. Excuse me. It's like, thanks. It really feels like it. It's been a lot of work, It's been a lot of work on my part, and it's doing things like riding the gondola and forcing myself to go out to eat, at times. Before I had so many digestive challenges, I'd go out to eat again, because for a while there I got so fearful of even just eating out because I wasn't sure if there was peanut oil or someone had touched peanuts and prepared my food, or it got out of control though.
What was the worst, like the most irrational thing you've ever thought in terms of fear? And
that I would have it go into anaphylactic shock by being in a room where they had peanuts, by smelling it, by breathing it.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Remember one time, were we in Hawaii? We were somewhere with our friend, and they were cooking Indian food.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was some sort of like Thai and Indian food, and there was some sort of sauce that just, oh gosh, it smelled like peanuts. I don't know if it had peanuts in it. I know that's not typical of Indian food, but it was like this weird.
Oh, it might be though.
It might be. And I walked in the room and I was like, oh my gosh, just smelling it made me feel like my throat was closing up. And I thought,
do you think your throat actually was closing up, or was it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so at all. I've been in airplanes and closed, excuse me, in tiny little tubes where people are eating bags of peanuts right next to me. Not comfortable, and I can smell them, but it's not going to kill me.
Yeah, that's a bit extreme, right?
Yeah, maybe some people have something I'm sure there's a case where somebody has had a bad outcome from something like that, but no, and knowing my body, that was just a little, now knowing my mental state was more powerful than my body actually reacting, but yeah, I used to think like I'd look at a peanut basically and have a bad reaction. It got so bizarre. It got so bizarre and so fearful in my head for years, where I'd go out to eat and I'd have my handbag on the seat right next to me, but yet I'd have to like have it in my hand, knowing that my EpiPen and my Benadryl were right there.
So that someone couldn't take it or take your bag.
Yeah, or like my bag would disappear. Like I would check sometimes throughout the dinner. This is where obsessive compulsion like comes in, like, stuff that we all have probably in us that can just go rampant. It can just like wildfire out of control. And I would actually look in my bag like every 5 minutes to make sure that I was seeing it right, that my stuff was right there in case I needed it, that I wasn't like making it up that I brought it, but I really didn't.
So it's like the equivalent of like leaving the house and checking 5 times if you've closed the door or something like that.
And then closing the door and you're like, did I really see that? Was I in another, mental place when I looked at the stove? Am I making it up that it was off? You really get into
a weird space.
I think it's so prevalent though in our society. Like, now working part-time for one of my friends at, this really awesome speech therapy clinic for children. And, a lot of really troubled kids come in, a lot of autism, a lot of, big struggles for people. But there's quite a lot of OCD going around with both parents and kids.
So the parents will come in and they'll have OCD?
Yeah. And then unfortunately, you see which kids that's passed on to, just because the kids are in that environment with their parents. So do all the kids that come in, do they have autism, or is it not just autism? It's not just autism. It's probably like when you had speech therapy as a kid, learning how to move your tongue right, learning how to, overcome stuttering problems, or
so it's all that kind of stuff on top of autism.
On top of autism and things. Wow. But, you'll see the moms that come in and they'll immediately grab the hand sanitizer and wipe everything down. They'll wipe the chair down before they sit on it. Then they'll take the kid's hands and be like, come over here, wipe them down. And then if the kid plays with a toy in the waiting room, they'll go wipe the toy down. You watch this, and then those are the kids that at the end of their session come out back into the waiting room and will grab, we have like a bottle, unfortunately, of hand sanitizer, like chemical soup sitting right there. And those kids
you want to say something, but you can't.
I'm like, don't do it. But they'll immediately go and grab their hand sanitizer without even the mom asking them, and they'll like sanitize down. And I'm like, man, at some point, like, it really seems like I understand the moms that don't want their kids getting sick and they think they're doing everybody a favor by, sanitizing. But these people are like over sanitized, completely psycho. Like, you can't sit on a public chair without sanitizing. I mean,
right.
It reminds me of What About Bob? Wasn't that movie with Bill Murray where he's just, and it's sad because it's such a disease. It really is like this disease of your mind. I mean, getting over stuff like that, it's, oh man, like lots of years of therapy, lots of years of putting yourself out into really, really scary situations.
Yeah.
Like, cause in that movie, it's so sad, but I mean, he's scared to like leave his house. He's scared to walk down the stair. I mean, that's how out of control our minds are capable of taking us to these dark, weird places, So
what is that? That's just a mind that's left unchecked. Is that a mind or a psyche or some sort of part of your personality that's not put in perspective? It's like, I guess I'm posing the question. You know how you have, celebrities and the people they surround themselves with are yes men, and they'll just, they won't hold them accountable to any sort of standard, and they'll just say yes to everything they want, and they'll acquiesce.
Right.
Is it a combination of that and your own personality that you don't have anyone around you that puts you in check, or is it something that's learned, or is it a result of being soft? Like, what's causing so much OCD? I mean, it's got to be chemical imbalances too, nutrition, and food, and vaccines, and all kinds of stuff on that level. But
along with generational after generational after generational ties,
just got to be, right?
Oh my gosh! I mean, with anxiety and things, I look on both my sides of my family, and
it's pretty prevalent.
It's really prevalent, and it becomes more so as people get older. And it's there. It's there on both sides. I always thought it was more from my mom's side. It's all over my dad's side. And it's like, this has to stop. Like, if we're not the ones to stand up and be like, this is where it stops, it's just going to perpetuate and get weirder. And unfortunately, to our kids' generations, then it's like, you're right. There's the chemical soup on top of it. There's so many more vaccines. There's so much more horrible GMO food. There's additives, there's sugar, there's coloring. I mean, on top of like, it's just hard enough to just try to break a tie from a family thing that might just be a little weird.
Yeah.
We're not talking like has a major like chain around your foot and like dragging you into the quicksand. I mean,
yeah,
it's just wrong.
What's going to happen to the next generation if there's, let's say, 4 generations? I mean, I look back at your parents and my parents' generation. What do they have to really be anxiety ridden about? But I guess, fear mongering through the news media and wars and stuff like that. And I could see that.
And depression
and lack. But, with today's culture, like you just said, we have the vaccines, we have all that stuff. So it seems like it's only going to get worse. There's more real reason and more causative factors that can result in that kind of behavior. So
I think so.
In generations to come, how far is it going to go?
I know.
Where are the kids going to be in 5 generations from now?
Don't you kind of think though that they're going to be separated? Like, I feel like what's happening with adults is like you're either on the road to waking up or you're on the road to like becoming more of a sheeple.
Right.
You're like all these sheeple people over here doing their like, well, just follow whatever.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's true with kids too? It's like you're having these indigo children, this whole movement of kids that are like almost born enlightened and have these gifts that are just bizarre.
That's really weird, huh?
And then you have the kids, unfortunately, that are just dumbing down, playing video games, OCD, not even functional, not even looking you in the eye, just GMO'd up the yin yang.
You're right.
Like, I think that's what's happening. Like, I think that it's actually getting better and it's getting worse. It's like the best is the best and the worst is just the worst.
Yeah,
for this generation, don't you?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like David Wolf talks about that. It's the best of times and the worst of times. We have at the same time we have GMO foods, vaccines, and all these horrible chemicals being released in the environment. We also have access to foods that we never had access to before, medicinal herbs and combinations of things. Food products that are just amazing. So it's like.
And a heart transplant that will keep somebody alive for 40 more years. I mean, it's insane.
So we have, maybe in the same way in terms of food and diet, it's the best of times and worst of times with people too. You have, these indigo children. Maybe they're going to be the ones that save the day,
I hope so. God knows that we've destroyed it enough. Now needs to be a rising up of a new generation that has a grander vision and the tools to do so,
That's why we were talking about the other day how, was it yesterday? I think we were just talking about it in the other room where we're talking about how like you have to constantly keep check of your life and your tendencies, like, we're just talking about in the bedroom where, how the analogy is if 2 boats set sail, from a harbor, and there's only like a half a degree difference or 1 degree difference. For the first 500 miles, there's no real separation. But after the course of thousands of miles, you start realizing these two boats or two ships are actually thousands of miles away from each other.
Just 1 little degree.
And just one little difference. I'm reading a book called The Compound Effect right now by Darren Hardy.
I usually know everything you're reading. I'm a little freaked out. You're reading something in the closet.
I know, right?
The Compound Effect.
I should have put it on Instagram, but I haven't put it on there yet. But
Darren Hardy?
Darren Hardy, yeah. Uh-huh. But, he talks about this idea that, it's little tiny things done over a period of time in a certain way with a certain attitude that gets you results. And so, but we're talking about this in the same way that that's true for success. It's also true for constantly taking like an inventory of your life and start noticing, like, do a lot of people realize, like, if there are, there might be a few people in the world whose parents they really want to model, and like, my parents were just amazing. I want to be like them in every way. But for the majority of people, they want to sort of not deal with the same problems their parents had and have a greater life than their parents had. But they have that sort of desire that's in the back of their head, but they don't really look at it in terms of how their life is stacking up to their parents. So you look at like your parents, maybe their anxiety, like someone with your mom, or my parents with negativity or something like that, and you look at where they are and where you are, and you constantly take stock of like, okay, am I becoming?
Reassess.
Yeah, because we all have fear, we all have negativity, we all have these negative parts of our personality, and are we reassessing? Mm-hmm. Are we constantly taking stock at like, okay, if I keep letting my attitude just sort of happen and I don't change my attitude, then that's the natural progression,
right?
And taking stock of that I think is huge. And so it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, is it's important to have a negative, like, I don't want to get cancer, or I don't want to get sick. But then too, I think that should only be like 1% of your motivation.
Right.
And then the other is like, okay, how great can I be? How much energy can I have? But for negative aspects of our parents' family line, are we taking stock in that? You know what I mean?
That's a really good point. It's almost like, don't you think like everyone wants to be the hero, but nobody wants to do the work?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you kind of feel like that?
Yeah, and there's a lot of work to being a hero. You can't just...
a lot. You can't just, I'm the hero, and everybody looks up to you, and you're the one who broke the family generational stuff or whatever it is that people are struggling with. But yeah,
it's work, like, right?
It is work.
So it's work for you to, go on gondolas, or for, if I had a fear of flying, which I kind of did a little bit, but I realized that was just a story I was telling myself for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Weird, considering I flew around the world.
You did it.
Depending on whether or not the world's round or flat. But yeah, it's weird for me, but but it's just constantly taking stock of
I think that's
who you're becoming.
I think that's the first and last step.
Yeah.
I do. I think that nothing's going to change if it's not your first, and at the very last step of your life, we still should be reassessing, because as long as we're in this human body having this human life, we should be always looking, I think, ideally, like what could be more? What could I be doing? Where am I at? Where, even in the processes of dying, when we're hopefully really, really old, or whatever age it is when when God has us go. But it's like, am I even dying well? Like, let's reassess then. Am I dying well? You hear about those people that, they get a diagnosis, unfortunately, and they're just like, well, and then they go out and they live more than they've ever lived. Like, I love those stories.
Did you hear the story about the guy from Italy?
No.
Oh, gosh, I'm going to butcher the story, but it was part of the Hay House World Summit. But it was a story about this man in Italy who was, he was pretty old, but he came down with some kind of diagnosis of cancer.
I do remember this.
Do you remember this?
This is Lissa Rankin talking about In This Village, right?
Yeah, you know the story.
I know the story.
Yeah. So, do you want to tell it or me?
I'll let you.
Okay, I'll see if I can tell it.
But he owned a vineyard, right?
Yeah, he owned a vineyard. Well, I don't know if he owned a vineyard or he came to own it after his diagnosis.
You're right, he did.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, he did.
And
he was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and they said, like 6 months to live, I think?
Yeah. And so he, as a result of that, he figured, okay, well, I'm going to stop working. I'll quit my job. And I think he lived in New York at the time or something like that, in Little Italy or something like that. And And then as a result of that, he figured he'd go back home, back to Italy, to be with his family for his dying days. And then he realized that some work needed to be done on the farm. And so he started working on the farm, on the vineyard, and then realized that, he could really improve the grapes and the wine that was there. So he started working on the wine. And then as a result of that, he started growing the wine business. Right. And then the wine business grew, and then
months go by, years go by.
Months go by, all these seasons go by, and then it was a series of all these circumstances that happened.
Yeah.
But basically, like 20 years later, or 25 years later, he went to go back to visit the doctor that said he was going to die in 6 months. He had 6 months to live. And that doctor was dead.
Yeah, the doctor was dead. I love the end.
I love that we're laughing about it.
I know. It's not funny at all, but isn't that...
But that's pretty funny, right?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's the joke on? Who lived? Who lived? Like...
It's dying
It's
well.
almost like he didn't have time to die. And, had his story been different, he would have died in a great way. He would have been back home amongst the people that he came from and the vineyard that he loved. Like, that wouldn't have been a bad ending either. But I feel like sometimes, isn't it true? Like, there's a Tim McGraw song I love for all you country fans out there, but it's like, live like you were dying. It's like, it's exactly that story about a guy who gets a diagnosis and what he goes off to do after that. And it's like, for the first time in this guy's life was when he really started living.
Really?
Yeah. He rode the Bronco for like 5 seconds. He skydived. He started spending time with his dad. He, basically everything that he never had time for because he was too busy, he did.
Wow.
And he said, I hope, and the whole line of the song is, I hope one day you get the chance to live like you were dying.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, whoo, it just gives you chills.
Yeah, that gave me chills.
I know.
Wow.
We should go on vacation more often because we come up with some pretty heavy... this whole conversation has been about dying and dying well. So.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, I think of, in terms of dying well, someone like Jess Ainscough.
Oh, I know.
I know. The legacy that she left and what she did and how she viewed life was so awesome.
Yeah, for those who don't know, we're actually trying to get her on our show still to, unfortunately she did pass away. What was it, a couple months ago? But she's the wellness warrior out of Australia and was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer in her arm and did the Gerson therapy and lived amazing life for 7 or 8 years.
Right.
When, most people don't even have a shot at living months.
And you look at people...
She lived and died well. Like,
she did.
Really, really well.
You look at people when they're diagnosed and it's like this fear, this shock. I'm not saying that I'm any better because, it's not like we're... there's so much work to be done in terms of spiritual growth.
Oh, gosh.
And, you know what I mean? But you look at the way most people, and probably me included, we're no different than anybody else. You're just stricken with fear. And I'm sure she was too.
Oh, I'm sure.
But she lived with her disease in such an amazing way that, if everyone lived like that, just all the time. Talk about dying well.
I know.
That's pretty, her story is amazing.
Do you think that's what went on with Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer recently? Like, obviously he had been dying for a while, I'm sure. I don't know if he was in denial or he knew about it, or do you know what was the actual story with him?
Well, I know that, remember when we saw him in the I Can Do It thing? What was that, in L.A.?
In Pasadena.
Pasadena? Uh-huh. That's where we... hung out with...
Leanna Warner-Gray.
Yeah, Leanna Warner-Gray.
Who's been on our show.
I saw him, and he didn't look well then, did he? He looked kind of like more...
Emaciated?
Yeah, a little bit thinner. But you know what? It's like... A guy like that, dying in your sleep and...
Being 75 years old.
Being 75 years old and
You're young. Sorry.
Giving that, everything he gave to the world. I'd rather do that than die in a hospital bed filled with chemotherapy and can't even move my body and can't even move and I'm just writhing in pain and trying to hold on to life. And it's like a guy like that is just so I don't know. It's so much more noble or something better about that. Something refreshing about that.
It was, because when I found out I was shocked. I thought, what? Like, how did he die? Usually you hear about people, in your local community in the papers, they like to drag on stories about somebody who struggled with this disease for 20 years and then succumbed to it or whatever. But it's like, I didn't even know Wayne Dyer was dying or that he still had the disease. That's how much he didn't make a big deal of it, And I'm sure inside he's like anybody who's dying will struggle with the, coming to terms with that. And I think he did it really well, though. It's like, I'd rather all of a sudden just be like, wow, she died? What? Like, I didn't know she was even sick. You know, not saying just to be brave because you want to be brave to the world, but like, man, I think if you're spiritually connected, like things just kind of fall away that don't matter anymore, and you realize you're going to be received with open arms on the other side. So what do we really have to fear? If you can come to the fear, I mean, that's what we're all mostly afraid of in the end, right? Is the unknown. So if we can become as okay as we can with that, then everything else is just gravy. Like,
I know, right?
Living this life is just so gravy.
Yeah, it's just awesome. It's just bonus points, you know.
It's bonus points.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer was an interesting guy. He's written a ton of books, and I really like a lot of the things he says and talks about.
I do too. He's an amazing man. Would have been cool to meet him in real life and also get him on our show. But
talk about a little bit of a ups and downs. You want to read a couple emails?
Sure.
So here's the lesson. I got a little lesson here going on,
I love
boys
lessons.
and girls. We have
take out your sharp number 2.
So you remember the flight? Yeah.
Number 2 pencil.
Remember the story of the flight of Icarus?
No.
I don't remember it too well, but the idea of the story was...
Is this a real thing or a made-up story?
It's like a...
like a parable or like a tale?
Yeah, tale.
A fable?
Like a Greek mythology kind of thing.
Okay.
And the story is that, he was told to not go too high because if he went too high and flying as a bird, the wax that was on his wings that would be melted by the sun. But if he flew too low, then something else would happen and he would die. I forget the story.
Like it freeze?
Yeah, he would freeze or something. And so the idea was to take that middle path so that you don't, die from either flying too high or too low. And so we got a really, really interesting couple emails here. So Mike writes in, he says, 100% free clickbait, free notes in exchange for your email. Okay, thanks for the email download link. Cool PDF. Links back to your site. Download another PDF, has TOC. I'm not sure what TOC even is. Links back to your website again in all caps. Free is free, man. Be worthwhile, and you don't have to scam people out of their personal information. I'm just going to say it. Isn't scamming when you take something wrongfully? Or you scam people out of money?
Yeah.
Or you trick them?
When someone gives you an email address, I don't really think that qualifies as scamming.
Because I'm not coming through the computer screen saying you must give me your email address. I'm like grab their wrist, but grab them by the wrist.
You're not? Justin in 3D. Oh.
You know what I mean?
That's bizarre.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he says free is free, man. Be worthwhile, and you won't have to scam people out of their personal information. And so I wrote him back. I was really nice, but I just said, I'm sorry you don't like us asking for your email address, but even that isn't required to listen to everything we have. Not only are our shows free, because at one point we could have charged for the shows a monthly cost. The shows that we do are valuable, and we could easily charge money for that. And so I said, not only are our shows free, but we recently removed commercials from them in order to better serve people. So the shows are free in and of themselves, and we've taken away the very thing, the lifeblood of our ability to live and do the show, which is commercials.
Right.
We've taken those
sponsors.
And sponsors. We won't do sponsors. We have products that we promote and talk about in our store and things like that. But we do everything. It's like we're trying to make the best possible thing, show for people. And I said we put a lot of hard work, energy, time, and money into creating shows for everybody. Speaking of which, all of this video stuff is going to be free too. It's free for everyone else.
Right.
It's to create better shows. And I said, thank you for listening. We really appreciate that. So there's the burning and having your wax melt.
No kidding.
Flying too high.
No kidding.
Or maybe flying too low. And then Andrea James.
Oh, I love Andrea James.
A former guest of ours says, Extreme Health Radio is one of the best education websites and podcasts I've ever listened to. Kate and Justin provide important interviews and information for our health and well-being, and they truly understand the relationship to ending mass incarceration and the health and well-being of people. See for yourself at episode 365, which is the episode that we had with Andrea James.
Nice.
Where she was in studio. I wonder why she was out here. Why was she out here?
She went to go visit, I believe, her daughter in Oceanside.
Oh, okay. episode 365, when they talk with me about women and incarceration. One of the best interviews I can remember because of the thoughtfulness of the hosts.
Oh.
Check them out on Facebook, Extreme Health Radio. Listen to their podcast and start on a path to health and wellness.
And there's the high.
Right? So it's like, if you put yourself out there, you're going to get people that just hate you and just don't like anything you're doing. But that's part of the overcoming of the fear.
Then you'll get people who love you so much, you almost become like you're up on this pedestal.
Right.
And that's not cool either, because we're human and we're going to disappoint people. And
right.
You don't want to be either one.
Yeah, you don't want to be either one. And so it's such an important thing to realize. It's like anyone, especially in today's world, if you're going to put yourself out there and really, truly want to help people or do things, you got to not take things too personally.
Yeah.
Like this guy here, I don't know what his life circumstances like. I don't know if he's, very frustrated with his life or whatever, but he's obviously upset that, like I said in the thing, it takes us hours. You take notes. It takes me hours. You see how long it takes me.
Notes is the easy part. It takes you like 9 hours to put a show together.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Because we do the show notes so that people don't have to take notes while they're listening. If we mention a website, if we mention a podcast or a book or anything, we put links to their stuff so that, people that are listening and driving don't have to ever write anything down.
Yeah.
It takes us hours to do that. And so I could be really offended at all
a comment
this,
like that, right?
But it's like, people are just upset. People are like you said a lot. People are just mad.
People are really angry. What?
You're seeing it, right?
Oh, people are angry.
People are very mad, aren't they?
Oh.
Very frustrated with how their life's going.
Yeah. Most everyone you come across, I think, honestly, is angry. They're angry about something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an angry. We all have anger. I know that's probably half of my health problems were because I'm angry and afraid.
I know, right?
Who likes to be vulnerable like that? But man, if you can be honest with yourself, and first of all, just admit that we're angry about stuff. That's the first step. But angry people. Like, to me, it blows my mind that people take time out of their day to write a complaint or...
In a public... Like, he could have written me a personal email about that,
Right.
Which would have... it's still fine.
And that's fine. That's their opinion, and we don't have to respond, or we can, but I think you responded very well, by the way.
Thank you.
But gosh darn it, like, there's some need in people to write seething or scathing emails or just bitter emails. To take that time to do that just makes me... I'm mad about things all the time, and I don't write a note to somebody every time they do something that makes me mad or that I wish they didn't do, because I have to shake it off. It's like Maggie. Like, I was talking to a friend this week who has a puppy, and she was saying that when the puppy, like in the training classes, they shake it off, and the trainer says, well, that signifies transition. So when the dog's done with something and they're ready to transition, they shake. We always say to Maggie, like, shake it off, you're okay. When she gets stressed out about something, most dogs do. They shake it off and they move on. So I'd rather be like a dog. I want to shake that off and transition into like, okay, that person might have just made me mad, but I don't need to write a letter. Like, say Nordstrom sent me the wrong item. I'll send it back, and I could write a seething letter going, I think I deserve this, that, or the other, or you owe me, or something. Mm-hmm. But, like, that's just going to make me more bitter and resentful, more built up. So I'd rather transition into going, well, that's kind of lame, but what can I learn from it?
Yeah.
And you move on. It doesn't mean that I didn't feel it or that I'm not recognizing it, because, sometimes I'm like, sometimes we'll have guests on our show even, or you'll listen to the Hay House World Summit, or, some of these spiritual leaders or gurus or people, and they don't seem to be like they're almost like robots.
Yeah,
Is automaton the right word? Where they're like, I'm using everything that happens to me to be a good thing. Like, I feel like they're not 100%. Either they're really evolved and enlightened, and they really don't feel angry about anything, and they just love everyone.
Isn't it?
It's just unrelatable to me. Yeah. Like, I get pissed. Like, I get really upset if something happens on the road and that person made me mad. Like, but I'm learning to let it go.
Yeah, you're aware of it and you're working on it.
Right. And I'm not going to let it like root down so deep that it causes me some other problems. But like, isn't that just being a human?
Right.
Like, that to me is like, we all have something we could work on. Like, we have something we could, and I shouldn't be that affected, but I am. That's the reality. Like, I'm not perfect. Far from.
And I think that I think that you're going to get, I think that like you're saying, a lot of people are mad and angry, and you see it. driving around. You see it in people's reactions to things, and it's really a sad thing, and we're all working on it. But I think a lot of people feel powerless. They feel out of control. They don't feel like they have any ability to steer their life in the way they want to go.
Right.
And so, they look for sort of comfort, and they look for sort of that numbing thing that goes on when they watch TV. And what they don't realize is that they're being steered by the TV and by societal media programming and friends. They're being steered, but they can't see it. They don't notice the subtle shifts. So they're being steered in the same way, but they're not able to. They don't feel like they have the power to do that themselves.
Right. Well, doesn't that go back to everybody wants to be the hero, but nobody wants to do the work?
Yeah.
It's easier you think, okay, if I want to be the hero of my life, it's going to be so overwhelming that it's easier to be a victim. It's easier to play the video game than read a self-help book. I mean, it's almost like you're more justified in your anger.
Right.
When you just go, okay, being the hero is too hard. Being the conqueror of this mountain is too hard.
Right.
I'll just sit at the bottom of it and eat my trail mix. It's
yeah.
So I think that's why people are angry, because they think that this can't it can't end good for me. Because it's too big. The mountain's too big. I think most people, that's why they're angry. Because they know they want to be the hero and they know they want to overcome the mountain.
But they see it as something that's
just insurmountable.
Yeah.
Right. So don't you think that makes sense why people are so angry?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that I think it's a fear. Like, they're angry because they're afraid, and they're afraid because they don't have control, and they don't feel like they can be the master of their own life.
Right.
And I understand that. It makes sense.
Yeah,
and
they're not alone. I mean, we all struggle with that.
I mean, that guy could have just given us, if he really wanted the show notes, I mean, we like you said, we work hard to put all those show notes together, and we want to keep you updated on everything that's going on. So if you want the show notes, I feel like it's an even exchange for energy. There's a lot of work we did for it.
Absolutely.
And so you just enter your email in, and then if you already signed up to our newsletter, then there's a little button there that you can share our show on, or like us on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so this is, it's a way of, extending energy both ways, and I think it's an honorable thing that, but people are just upset. He could have easily just signed up for a free an alias email account and got it that way.
If you want it that bad, right?
Yeah. Or you could just take notes, and you don't have to, get our show notes or anything like that. But
it's everybody. It's like I get Hay House's emails all the time, and there was one by Mike Dooley this week released where it said free video with Mike Dooley, and I love that guy. And I clicked on it, and it says enter your email to get the video. So I do he just it is free. It is. I mean, I guess I get what he's saying. Like, he's all disgruntled that you have to give something to get something, but rarely. I mean, in this day and age, everyone's trying to support their own thing, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because you're going to either it keeps the economy going, it keeps your work going,
keeps people being able to provide good content,
right? So for me, it's worth it to give a free email address. It was free to sign up with Yahoo or Gmail, or that was free to me.
Yeah,
that was a free service. So I'm going to give my freedom to some, I'll gladly give that to get what I'm getting in return.
And then what does Yahoo do? They put ads in your email.
Of course
it's
they do.
Everything has
just
to
the
be
way it works.
Sustained until we come up with a better, way of doing the world. Unless you get Brandon Adams from Creditors in Commerce, Jacques Fresco from the Venus Project, and the guy that created the Zeitgeist movement, Peter Joseph. Get them in a room together and figure out how we can create a better way of doing something that's not based on monetary, issuance of currency. Then, this is just the way things have to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. And
to become so disgruntled or take the time to publicly write an email like that just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. But then too, it's also, there's a lot of people out there that just want to take.
Yeah.
And they just want to, we'll get scathing YouTube comments, and then, people calling someone an idiot. Like we just had someone the other day calling Dr. Mark Circus. He's a medic, and medics only have a certain amount of training, and he's an idiot. And so I looked up the definition of the word idiot just for the actual definition. And it's someone who's mentally handicapped. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm just thinking,
the village idiot, right? Or
yeah.
There's another term that we... what is that other idiot? You know how we talk about, though, on the show? There was it's such a good term about,
Of idiot?
Yeah. It's something that, is... Oh, gosh. It's a term... I am totally going to blow it. Okay, go ahead.
No, but it was just funny that this guy calls Dr. Mark Circus an idiot, and he calls him an idiot because he doesn't like the fact that Dr. Circus really talks bad and says that MMS is a dangerous thing.
Oh.
You know, and so this guy believes in MMS, and so he thinks so Mark Circus is an idiot. He's a medic. He only has this amount of training. And it's just, people are just angry. People are just
really
mad.
Angry.
And I said, you know what? I agree with you. I disagree with Dr. Circus. I think Dr. Mark's, I think MMS is something that could be used, and it's a very powerful substance, and I think that he's wrong on that. But I don't know the science of it. I haven't studied it. That's just my general belief based on looking at what I've looked at. But I'm not going to go around calling someone an idiot because, especially in a public forum, and that video has like 86,000 views, and people are looking at the comments
stuff from it. But yeah, of course, he's going to put it in a place where it's like
a lot
causes
of people,
all this dissension or
upset. So I'm not going to, I just, what you put out there comes back,
right? And
you can't go around calling people idiots, and it just shows that there's something wrong in your life,
Sad, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sad.
It's not, yeah.
I doubt he'll hear this show because I don't think he wants to give us his email address. It doesn't sound
No, this was a different guy.
Right.
Yeah, this is a different guy.
Well, then he might hear this, and I don't really feel that bad.
That's okay. Do you want to read the Facebook shares? We have some people on our Facebook.
Yeah, we love when people share. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing.
We have the lovely Andrea James. Woohoo!
Andrea James.
What is this? The Eco Chef? All in capitals. The Eco Chef. Chris Graves, Whole Life Natural Market and Cafe. Ollie J. Elks Allen. Steve McCaffrey. Roger Ferdinand. Madeline Corrigan. I can't say the last name, but it's awesome looking. Kathy Harrison, Kim Graves, Alina Anila. That's an awesome name, too.
Nice, I like that.
The Hoffman Center for Integrative Medicine. Kelly Beagle, Leslie Cotlow. Boston Holistic Wellness. Liz Zen. SkyAmugsop.com.
What?
I don't know. That's pretty cool.
Sky Amugdopus?
Sure. Hooty Wutty. The Health Evangelist, and Pamela Robertson. So stoked for you guys. Thanks, you guys. So stoked on you.
That's awesome.
We also had featured Amazon orders for May.
I know. Some interesting things, huh?
What's 12 Monkeys Special Editions? That's that movie?
Yeah, with Brad Pitt.
I never saw it. It looked intense.
12 Monkeys. Yeah, that was kind of like Fight Club.
Yeah, wasn't it kind of heavy?
In terms of intensity. Mm-hmm. But that's cool. I didn't know.
Point Break. Surf movie.
That's right.
Movie. Well, somebody ordered Blue Ice Royal Butter Oil and fermented cod liver oil.
Have you heard of that? Fermented cod liver oil?
Oh, yes, I have actually. That was recommended to somebody I know recently for some certain ailment. Oh, I'm going to blow it. But yeah, that's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, really good.
Fermented cod liver oil. And then the Now Foods L-glutamine, right on, 500 milligrams, 120 caps.
I know, right?
People are getting healthy.
Yeah, it's cool.
Awesome, guys.
Yeah, thanks all you guys.
I like to mention some of the things people order on Amazon. That's fun.
Yeah, thanks for bookmarking and using our Amazon link and remembering to do that every single time you make a purchase. That helps.
Amen.
Right?
Brother friend.
Yeah, let's see if there's anything else here that we need to get to. I want to let everyone know about the Holistic Oral Health Summit. What's the date today, Kate? Do you remember?
September 27th.
27th? Okay, it starts September 28th. So by the time you guys listening to this show, will be into it. But from September 28th to October 5th, which, by the way, Kate, this guy that wrote us on our Facebook wall, he'd probably be mad at this. Because when you register for the summit, you have to register in order to get the whole summit for free. Mm-hmm. So the way these summits work is that you give your email address.
That's how every summit works.
Every site works like this. So you give your email address, and then you get access to everything for free. And then if you want to purchase the summit so you can listen to it later, you can do that.
See, now I think that's cool.
I mean, that's awesome.
That's so cool. Because information for free these days is just awesome because the whole summit they could charge for even the free stuff that we're getting.
I know, right?
So whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
It's silly.
But I think, it's just funny how that works. Okay, so the other thing that I want to let you know, that's the Holistic Oral Health Summit.
Nice.
Dr. Lane Freeman and Dr. Stuart Nunley both are dentists.
Nice.
are going to be on that one.
Nice.
Yeah, really cool.
I love both of them.
So
They've been on the show a few times.
They have. You can go to extremehealthradio.com/oral health. I'll put links. I'll try to put links so that you can see these things. extremehealthradio.com/oral health. And then I'm really excited about the Truth About Cancer Summit from Ty Bollinger that's coming up very soon, October 13th to the 23rd, which is a video-based worldwide cancer summit.
Awesome.
So he's going around everywhere, and I was sharing in the email that's going to go out on Monday about how I talked to him on the phone. Remember I told you this? Mm-hmm. And he was really excited about what he was learning about this new therapy in Lafia.
Cool.
But Lafia seems to be coming up a lot in conversations with us. It's kind of weird.
Maybe future trip.
Future trip to Lafia. I like that.
Never thought I'd be going there, but
no.
Never thought I'd be doing this either. So never thought I'd have a microphone in my face.
Yeah. So that's coming up. Truth About Cancer, October 13th to the 23rd. And also, I want to let you guys know if you want to sign up to our newsletter list, you can do that by texting the word Get Healthy to 33444. And we have like 4 emails we're not going to get to. We have so much to get to.
I got to go get the laundry out. It's time.
Yeah, it's time to go. We got to go on vacation.
Let's go.
All right.
We'll get to those next week.
Yeah, we'll tackle these emails next week. We've got 4 emails that we'll get to. So in any event, thank you everyone for joining us. If you want the show notes and you actually want to give us your email address, you can do that. And we'll send you the show notes.
Yeah.
And that will make Mike very upset. Who wrote on our Facebook site, we're evil people. Right?
We're linking back to our own information.
That's
evil.
Horrible. What's wrong with you people? Shouldn't you do everything for free and not be able to pay your bills so you have to stop doing it?
Oh, brother. And believe me, we've been close. So
I know, right?
Yeah, it's not like we live in some mansion on a hill and life's just really easy.
Yeah, we're doing everything possible to make these the best shows for you. So one of the big things that I think is really amazing about the time in which we live these days is crowdfunding. And I think it's really awesome because with crowdfunding, you can fund people's projects.
Yes.
And you can help do that. And so we are allowing people to do that now through our site. It's called Patreon. And you can do that at extremehealthradio.com/support. And if you want to donate to us, you can do that on a per podcast basis. So if you can donate, $5 or $10 a show or $1 a show, we do 4 shows a month. It just comes out of your account once a month. And then at the beginning of the month, you get charged for like $1, $5, $10, $20, whatever you decide.
Limits on.
And you can put limits on. And if you have a Facebook account, you can head over there right now and do that. And it'll take you about 30 seconds to sign up. And so we appreciate everyone that's been doing that. So thank you guys all for supporting
keeping us rolling
on Patreon. Yeah, we really appreciate that.
It's huge.
Yes. All right, is that about it?
Vacation
time.
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
And we will catch you on the next episode.
Look at that. Look at that.
Hey, everybody. This is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of